Hola, hello and welcome back to the Sailing Gardener channel. In this episode we have quite the sailing adventure with lots of water, waves and even sharks. But first we have a package to collect. We made several trips to the island chasing down the package with the engine part. It was accidentally sent to another island, but we got it in the end. Then the weather turned and we had 8 days of bleak, sunless days, high winds and choppy sea. We stayed put and waited for it to pass. In making plans to sail up through the Mamuka Islands, we discovered the US Survivor series was being filmed and the general public, us, were excluded from going near the filming locations. We set sail and planned to avoid these islands. Our first stop was Liku Bay, but we were told quickly to move on and that no yachts were allowed to anchor there. So we decided that we would continue sailing all the way up to Butterfly Island at the end of the Mamuka Island chain. And despite the lack of wind, we enjoyed a stunningly beautiful day motoring up there. And there it is, it's Butterfly Island. It looks a bit like the 2 wings of a butterfly there. And that's where we've come from today. We're almost at our destination. On arrival, we were greeted by 4 to 5 baby reef sharks that circled our boat in crystal clear water. I was told swimming would be fine and they weren't a threat at all. Butterfly Island was beautiful, white sandy beaches and gorgeous sunsets. The next day we got our flippers and masks and snorkels and headed off to the reef to see what was under the water. I don't know anything about seagrass or underwater plants, but this lovely golden variety caught my eye. Love the way it just sways in the water, like grass on land really. This was the only patch of it that we found. Then it was time to head back to the boat, and thankfully I didn't see any baby sharks. Then it was time to head off to another island, and we were actually heading to Octopus Resort in the Asawas. That's the Asawas there, the bottom of the chain of islands. And when we got to Octopus Island, we decided the anchorage was probably a bit rolly, and we made our way round to this beautiful bay, which is Nailawiki Bay. After dropping anchor in this lovely spot, we went ashore and we met the local people there and had our first sevu sevu ceremony with the leader of the village and some of the men, and we sit together and we drink kava, and we also give them a gift of kava, as that is the protocol really for sailors here in Fiji when they go into an island bay with a village in it. And you can see there that the tide is out and there's a lot of reef, so we actually couldn't go ashore very often, only when the tide was really high because of all that reef that is circling in the bay there. We stayed 2 nights here in this bay and only went ashore once actually. And you can see there in the distance there's a garden they've got on the hillside. It's a really inhospitable terrain really, but there's cassava growing and of course loads of coconut trees. And because the winds were coming up and the anchorage was a little bit exposed, we decided to put up the anchor after the 2 days and head south again back to Butterfly Island. The anchorage had been pretty rocky and rolly and I was having to lay down a bit, feeling a little bit seasick, so it was quite nice to be moving on from that space. Back at Butterfly Island, we dropped the anchor, got the paddleboard out and had some fun paddling around in this lovely bay. The next day was beautiful and we decided we would set sail for dinner today. We started the day with a lovely breakfast, hot chocolate, coffee, fruit, toast, the usual, and the captain got things ready on deck for sailing and I went below to organise things down there. But sailing was not to be. There was smoke coming out of the engine when we started it and we thought we'd have to use the fire extinguisher, but thankfully it didn't come to that and it was the starter motor that had blown up. There it is, man, it stunk. So we stayed put, thinking and planning what we would do next. We decided to set sail first thing the next morning, but ran into a hiccup with the anchor chain being wrapped around a bommy. We did eventually make it out of the anchorage and then we just sat and bobbed, waiting for wind. And that is Camel Island that you saw just there. There was a lot of just waiting around for wind. After about 4 hours of bobbing between islands, the wind began to pick up and we started sailing towards Musket Cove as the wind was supposed to increase and get us almost to the entrance there, and then we were hoping for a tow. The next morning, as we sat at the Trader Cafe in Musket Cove, we couldn't believe the contrast between where we were right then and what the evening before had been like, with wind and trying to miss reef and getting towed back into Musket Cove and going on a buoy. But we are safe and sound and all is well. So we've had quite the adventure for the last 2 weeks and we're kind of back where we started because we are back in Musket Cove waiting for another engine part. But hopefully it's not too far away and we can start sailing again. Sorry there hasn't been very much about plants in this episode. Our next episode, hopefully there'll be a whole lot more about plants. Thanks for watching, and that brings me to the end of another episode. So till next time, goodbye.